Hold up. The new 93.7 The Ticket location has a milk, coffee, and tea inside? Oh yeah, this is a game changer.
Need an afternoon pick-me-up? How about a coffee or smoothie on your way to work? Stop by the Ticket Mill location on 1040 O Street to get your go-to drink or try out our new game day drinks exclusive to the Ticket Mill location. We know it'll make your day a million times better.
High schoolers, unleash your creativity and learn about potential careers in broadcasting at the Digital Expressions Media Camp. Have fun, make friends, and get hands-on experience with video and radio production June 9th through the 14th at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. Scholarships are available from the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and spots are limited. Learn more at digitalexpressionscamp.com. That's digitalexpressionscamp.com.
Hey there, fellas. It's your girl Jordan with Sartor Hammond Jewelry, here to drop some knowledge bombs on how to wow your woman. Size matters, but not the way you're thinking, guys. Make sure you know her ring size before you even think about popping the question. If you aren't a surprise kind of guy, ask her. I bet she knows her size. If you are a surprise kind of guy, bring in a piece and we can get close to the right size. We will make it perfect for her when the time is right. Until next time, this is Jordan at Sartor Hammond Jewelry. Happy shopping, guys.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the K&TK Studios, 1040 O Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeit. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Rain, snow, or shine, John Henry's is here to keep your home's plumbing systems working properly no matter what kind of weather Nebraska throws at us. From unclogging toilets and drains to installing new water heaters and water treatment systems, John Henry's is your plumbing expert in the Lincoln and Omaha communities. Visit us at calljh.com or call
John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air.
and electrical.
Early break with Sip and Jake.
Harvey Perlman was there.
Hey, Harvey's there.
Harvey sidled up to me and said, Sipple, a little out of context. So I was driving back. I called Pelini and I told him what Harvey said. He goes, Sipple, you should have told him anytime he's not near a sewer, he's out of context.
Whoa. Early break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket.
Bagels & Joe is the perfect place for breakfast or lunch in May. Try their brand new cake batter cream cheese on any breakfast sandwich. Also, enjoy a new energy fusion drink with a variety of flavors and carrot cake muffins with cream cheese frosting. 4 locations in Lincoln and 1 in Seward. Bagels & Joe.
This is Bree Fansteel, local race car driver. Join me and James Rowland every Sunday at 7 p.m. for The Finish Line, where we discuss off-road, on-road, and sometimes next-to-the-road racing on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Live from the heart of Lincoln, America. Welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello and welcome into the Daily Nebraskan show right here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. We're back. We had an extended leave due to, the semester being over, people going out of town. Anthony's out of town right now. Anthony, why are you not in Lincoln right now?
I'm not in Lincoln. I'm at home in Omaha, Nebraska right now, but I was covering the Big Ten baseball tournament all week. Nebraska made an insane run, improbable run really, to the Big Ten title game, won their first Big Ten tournament title. It was just an outstanding experience and just a great tournament. And yeah, I knew I wanted to talk about this baseball, so
Oh yeah,
had to call in.
Yeah, we had to start the show back up this Sunday. Then again, we're going to be going now on summers every Sunday at 5:00. So this is going to be our new time. We were going 11 to 12 at night, but since the school year is over at Lincoln and all colleges, we're going to be going during the summer 5 to 6 every Sunday. But with that, let's get right into the show. So we're going to start the show off with Husker baseball talk because that's kind of all everyone's talking about right now, because Nebraska made an improbable run after losing 15-2 in their opening game in the Big Ten tournament. Anthony, you covered that game. What was like the energy of not only just fans and people covering the team, but of the actual team? I mean, that had to be a huge letdown. Ohio State, not that great of a team this year, and then they just go and stomp Nebraska 15-2 in the opening game of the tournament. What was kind of the feeling around the team after that loss?
Yeah, I remember the players post game in the press conference. They were very upset about that loss. They took it on them. They weren't really saying, Ohio State was great in this, great in that. Well, yes, Ohio State did play a great game. They were all saying that that's on us. Our approach was off, just all of that. And it really just showed me just this team's resilience. Resilient was a word that Will Bolt talked about all week here. And, Nebraska, this is a team that already has a at-large bid locked up in a regional. So, losing your first game 15-2, you could very easily, just throw in the white towel, just play easy these next couple games. If you lose, you lose. Hey, you're still going to make a regional. But, this team, you can tell they were very upset after that loss, but they also knew that, they can use this game and kind of build from that. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. And I mean, in a big controversy after that game, when Nebraska did lose for fans, was that they didn't pitch Sears, the Big Ten pitcher of the year. They did not pitch him in the opening game of the tournament. And I mean, at the time, that was kind of like hindsight 2020, you should have pitched your best pitcher when you lost. But I want to first get your thoughts on it. I mean, I know that was kind of a little bit ago, but looking back at it, I mean, going into that game, did you agree with the decision to not pitch Sears? And I mean, although it did backfire, Nebraska did end up winning the tournament. But going into that game, did you agree with the decision to not pitch Sears?
I did not agree with the decision. I saw the reasoning behind it. If you have two really great pitchers that don't really lose. Brett Sears hasn't lost all year. Mason McConaughey, great second game guy. So I understand, it's a double elimination tournament. Why don't you see if you can steal this win with a pitcher other than them, then use those two pitchers. You have an easy run to the championship game, and then you'll pitch another guy. But that wasn't the case. Bolt wasn't comfortable pitching Sears. I think it was 5 days after his last game. Pitched 99 pitches, I think, in that game, or close to 100. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't comfortable putting him out there. But then obviously in the game the next night on Wednesday, put him out there with your tournament being on the line. So I didn't agree with the decision, but it ended up working out in the end. Sears played great. McConaughey played great. And really the big takeaway I had was just the play of the other starters. Outside of Brock in the first game, he more than made up for it today in the championship. And then Will Walsh and Drew Christo also put in some great performances on the mound.
Yeah, because I believe Sears pitched that the Friday before, and the game was a Tuesday. So that's 4 days rest. I mean, I saw the reasoning behind it, and honestly, I kind of agreed with it because, I mean, just think of it. Ohio State they weren't seen as a good team heading into this tournament. I mean, they looked good when they won 15-2, but like I feel like the reasoning was like, I don't think Bolt thought he had to pitch Sears in that game. And if it would have been one of the top teams in the Big Ten and Nebraska needed to win a game or two in the tournament to make a regional, then they probably would have pitched him day one. But, Nebraska was already walked into the NCAA tournament pretty much. You had to lose 2 games. So it's not like if they lost this first game, they were just done. And I think the reasoning was if you can get that win against Ohio State, and then Sears, you pitch Sears in the second game, you probably win that game. Then you're kind of rolling in the tournament. You're 2-0 in the Big Ten tournament, haven't even lost one yet. But even with the opening day loss of 15-2, Nebraska makes an improbable run all the way to the Big Ten championship. And I mean, they went through, and none of the games that they won were even that close, in my opinion. I mean, they beat Purdue 6-2. Then in the rematch against Ohio State, that was 12-5. Indiana 4-2, that was the closest one. Then 10-4 Indiana in the second game, and then the Penn State game today was 2-1. That was a very close game and a really good game. We'll get into that. But I mean, did you see anything that kind of changed about this team from that first Ohio State game to all the rest of the games? I mean, because they kind of looked like a completely different team. Is there something that you can kind of touch on that you think changed, how this team played?
Yeah, I think a lot of it just goes with their approach in the batter's box. They really just weren't aggressive enough against Ohio State. That's something that they called themselves on post game about, saying that they need to improve on that. And that really showed throughout the rest of the week. They were very committed at bats. They were getting good swings, getting swings early in the count, as well as, being very effective with 2 strikes. So I think that helped. And I also think just kind of the pitching, Sears' performance in the second game really just helped give the rest of the pitchers confidence going forward. Drew Christo talked about it in a press conference last night. I talked to Brockett about it today, but they both just said that pitching is contagious. If one player has a good game, that just gives the whole team confidence and just belief that they can do so. And that clearly was the case going out the rest of the week. It was just very, very interesting to see this team after the first game play great offense and great defense. It wasn't like one side was really carrying the others. They were both just playing on the same level.
Is there one game you can point to specifically where you thought, okay, this team can actually make a run? Because after they lost to Ohio State 15-2, no one thought that they'd make this big run. I mean, let alone win the whole tournament. Is there a game that you can think of that really made you like, oh, okay, this team could actually do it?
Yeah, I'd have to go with the Indiana game Saturday morning, the first of the 2 games, because, the 2 nights before you're playing a 6-seed Purdue and then a 7-seed Ohio State again. You're starting your 2 aces. They get through very easily. The hitting's there. I expected them to, still go on a run in the losers bracket. But then on Saturday morning, you're starting Will Walsh, who has had his ups and downs as a pitcher this year. But, man, Will Walsh is just Mr. Big Ten tournament. He pitched a complete game shutout last year, pitched another complete game here. And it was just watching that game. Josh Caron was responsible for all of their runs in that game. He hit 2 home runs. So it wasn't a lot from the offense, like just scoring-wise from other players. It was all from Caron, but still just showing that they have that power. They have, Caron obviously had a great tournament, and he was showing up every single game. And then to be able to have a pitcher outside of Sears and McConaughey really do some damage really made me think that, used one pitcher this whole game, preserved their bullpen if needed for later that night. And that's really when I thought that they could, run this table and win their last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very impressive run. I mean, Nebraska first team since 1995 to lose their first game of the Big Ten tournament and then win the whole thing. The first Big Ten tournament Nebraska has won in baseball. And I mean, there was some people saying, well, they already won a regional. Winning the tournament's not that big of a deal because you're not going to get to host even if you do win it. But I mean, you can just tell like the energy around this team is so much different now. And that's why winning this tournament was so important, in my opinion, is because anytime you can win a conference tournament in the Big Ten, that's a big deal. Do you know how big of a deal it'd be? It's like, oh, Nebraska, would in football if they'd win the college football tournament. I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, I know it's not the same at all, but like, it's just winning a conference tournament is a big deal no matter the sport, no matter the circumstance. If you have a chance to do it, you have to go for it. And I feel like some people were critical of Bowl after that game 1 is because you didn't pitch Sears against Ohio State. It kind of was, some people felt like he was kind of throwing in the towel, but Nebraska still makes the run and wins the Big Ten tournament. But let's get into today's game. Nebraska won against Penn State today, 2-1, very close game, the lowest scoring game for Nebraska of the tournament. You were there at the game. You covered it today. Can you kind of just walk us through that game today?
Yeah, that was the fastest baseball game I've ever seen. I mean,
I've seen that a lot.
It was just, I've never seen just both sides, both Jackson Brockett for Nebraska and Travis Lunsman for Penn State. They were just going back and forth, 3 up, 3 down, going tit for tat. And it was just, it was incredible how, like, it's one thing not giving up runs, but they weren't putting anyone on base. They weren't walking anyone. There were hardly any hits. And it really, for the most part of the game, I was thinking that, that one run that Brockett gave up in the first inning, tried to pick off a guy for the third out. Carey couldn't handle it. Runner from third goes in. I thought that was going to be the difference. And it was really going to be unfortunate as he pitched this great game outside of that one mistake by him that was going to cost Nebraska. But then, Josh Caron in the seventh inning really just woke up Charles Schwab Field, 13,000 plus fans there. All of them are for Nebraska. There might have been like maybe 100 Penn State fans, but that's it. And after that, it was just high energy throughout every strike that Brockett threw. The crowd was getting into it. So it was just a very unique and fun experience.
I mean, yeah, Nebraska fans travel well, no matter the sport, no matter where it is. They always travel well. One of the best fans in the nation, if not the best. But let's kind of preview. I mean, the NCAA tournament, the selection show is going to be tomorrow, noon Eastern time. So I need to think in my head, what time would that be Central? If it's noon Eastern, that would be 1 Central. Yeah, I think that's right. Anyway, somewhere in mid-noon, 1, 11, whatever. I'm really bad with times, okay?
I know.
Really
the fact it took me so long to think that.
You know what? It's sometime tomorrow. Anyway, selection show tomorrow, noon Eastern time. It's going to be on ESPN2. Do you what is kind of your sense of, then regional is going to start Friday, May 31st. Is there kind of any sense of where you think Nebraska could maybe get selected, where they could potentially play? Do you have any idea of anything like that?
I don't have any ideas of like where they'll be heading, but I think Nebraska will be a 2 seed. Regionals are 4 teams, each 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed. I think Nebraska, they're going to be a 2. They really had a chance up pretty late into the season to be a regional host. That loss to South Dakota State a few weeks back really, I think, took away any chance of that, even after winning the Big Ten tournament. So I see them as a 2 seed in a regional, and I'm pretty confident on that.
I mean, yeah, and if you would have said at the beginning of the season they would have been a 2 seed in the regional NCAA tournament, I feel like Husker fans would have taken that, especially winning the Big Ten tournament. I mean, this was just overall just a very successful season. Even if Nebraska, flames out in the NCAA tournament, just winning the conference tournament is just such a big deal. Something Nebraska, they have literally not won a Big Ten tournament in baseball. So this is the first one ever. Huge historic day for Nebraska. What is your kind of expectations though for the tournament? Do you feel like Nebraska could make a little bit of a run in the NCAA tournament or a big time run?
Yeah, I think, this might be me drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think that they can go on a run here. I think, especially seeing how these other pitchers fared, Will Walsh, Jackson Brockett, Drew Christo, it really just gives me a lot of confidence going into this regional where they're going to be a 2 seed. So they're going to have to most likely play a 1 seed, play a host in their home environment. But I can see them, pulling off a little upset there. And then when it gets to a super regional, that's just a best of 3 series. Nebraska hasn't lost or they only lost 1 weekend series throughout Big Ten play. It was against Rutgers on the road, but pretty early into Big Ten play as well. It was kind of a cold spell for them. So, yeah, I think, Nebraska, they're really built for those best of 3 series. They're built for a lot better than, say, a double elimination format like the Big Ten tournament was, and they still ended up winning that. So I think if they make a super regional, it's going to be hard to beat them twice when you're going to have to be either Brett Sears or Mason McConaughey, most likely one of those times.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska is honestly built for the NCAA tournament better than the Big Ten tournament. Not because of like competition or anything, just like the way it's formatted. I mean, Nebraska having, their 1A, 1B pitcher in Sears and McConaughey, I mean, that really does bode well for them in in regionals, in super regionals. I do feel like Nebraska can make a pretty decent run. But then again, Big Ten's not really a baseball conference. So it's going to be interesting to see how Nebraska fares against these other teams outside of the conference. Because Nebraska did have a pretty decent start to the year in non-conference play. So it's going to be interesting. They haven't played a non-con opponent since the beginning of the year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fare against non-Big Ten tournament teams. But before we throw it to break, I just want to get your, how was just, the fans' atmosphere, going to all these games? How electric was it seeing Nebraska go through this entire tournament and ending up winning it?
Oh yeah, it was a very special atmosphere down there in Omaha. Last year I covered Nebraska baseball and I was at the Big Ten tournament, and there was one game they were playing a 1 seed Maryland that got a pretty good gathering from the fans, but wasn't really anything like this past week was, especially this game today. I mean, this game, it got moved up from 2 p.m. to 10 a.m. because of weather for some reason. Because
that's really weird.
At 2 p.m. it was just sunny in downtown Omaha. So I don't know what the reasoning behind that, but there was still 13,000 people, 13,300 I think was the total attendance number at that game. And yeah, if that game was at 2, it would have been even more people there. So it was very, very cool to see. And you could tell Nebraska enjoyed it. And also the other teams really enjoyed this atmosphere as well. Talk to Penn State's head coach, Ohio State, Indiana, all their teams. They're always shouting out Omaha just because these are fans who they care about Nebraska, yeah, but they also care about college baseball. Obviously the College World Series is held there, but it's a great, just an amazing atmosphere for these athletes, for the Big Ten in general. It's a great spot to have your conference tournament. They actually got the license with the Big Ten renewed for, I think, 3 more years. So the Big Ten tournament will be at Charles Schwab Field till 2027 at least. So it's going to be a fun next couple of years. And I expect the crowd turnout to always be like this.
Anthony, I feel like they moved the game up so then we could have our show at 5 today.
Oh, yeah.
At 2, we wanted to be able to have you call in. You've been covering with how fast the game went, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the game went by really fast. I remember I looked, I was like, oh, man, it's already the 7th inning? What's going on?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, once again, Nebraska defeats Penn State today 2-1, wins the Big Ten tournament, and Anthony was there on the scene. It was electric. Husker fans turned out awesome. Husker fans, it's always been shown they were back a winning program. I feel like football is the only program that Nebraska fans are back that's not a winning program. But, baseball, we've seen it with basketball and baseball now. And even, the soccer team, like when there's a program that is winning, having success, Husker fans will show out and have a lot of fun there.
Volleyball, obviously. It's just all the sports except for football at this point are all showing out. So
football, I mean, this is supposed to be the season for football. We'll have to see. The guy Raiola have a pretty easy schedule to start the season. We'll see if they can make a run. But with that, we're going to throw it to break. When we come back, we're going to get some NBA talk in because there's been a lot of playoff action that's happened since we last talked. So we definitely want to dive into that. We'll do that next right here on the Daily Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hi, it's Tom and Mike from Husker Rewind. And did you know that people who are represented by an attorney are often compensated up to 3 times more than someone who is not?
Friedman Law has been helping injured people for over 60 years. It's all they do. If you're ever seriously injured in an accident, call Friedman Law at 402-476-1093.
Friedman Law is a family firm that works hard for Nebraska families just like yours.
So if you're ever injured on the job or in a crash, contact Friedman Law at friedmanlaw.com.
Serve Nebraska believes that volunteers are part of what makes Nebraska great. Each year, the Step Forward Awards honors volunteers from across the state who serve their communities in outstanding ways. We hope you'll join us this year at the Step Forward Awards luncheon on October 27th in Omaha. Help us thank volunteers with a celebration to remember. To register, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Register Now. We hope to see you there. Paid for by Serve Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Houses? They're expensive. And once you buy one, you're kind of stuck with it for a while. You need to make sure you get your best house for the best price. You need Ben Bleicher and his team of pros at Professional Realty Group. They'll take the time to figure out what's important for you in your dream home, and they have the expertise to find the hidden issues that could surprise you after the sale. That's professional knowledge, proactive service. We call that potential. Ben Bleicher and the team at Professional Realty Group of Berkshire Hathaway's Home Service Ambassador. Find more online at prg-ne.com.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
What a day. I could sure use an afternoon pick-me-up. Hold up. The new 93.7 The Ticket location has a milk, coffee, and tea inside?
Oh, yeah, this is a game changer. Need an afternoon pick-me-up? How about a coffee or smoothie on your way to work? Stop by the Ticket Mill location on 1040 O Street to get your go-to drink or try out our new game day drinks exclusive to the Ticket Mill location. We know it'll make your day a million times better.
This is Brad with Midwest Bank, proudly serving our Nebraska communities for over 70 years. We're a community bank, making local decisions, supporting local organizations, and helping local businesses and farms succeed. We are dedicated to serving our clients and helping them meet their financial needs with sound, innovative banking solutions. From an array of checking and deposit accounts, cash management services, to small business, real estate, and ag lending. We're here for you. Your community, your bank, Midwest Bank. Find out more at midwestbank.com. Member FDIC.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de The Alzheimer's Association y The Ad Council.
School tells you all about the 4 seasons: spring, summer, and so on. And then there's a way we really tell what time of year it is. Sports seasons, football season, baseball season, or even off season. Well, what's the chocolate season? Well, it's now, of course. And now, and always. Whether you're looking for a caffeinated pick-me-up on the way to work, a little snack on the way home, or you need the perfect gift that's sure to be appreciated, it's time for the chocolate season, y'all. 40th and Old Cheney, or order ahead at thechocolatseason.com. See you there.
Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits is your place in North Lincoln to go for all your needs in wine, spirits, and beer. They also have a large variety of cigars in their walk-in humidor, and they have a top-notch walk-in, temperature-controlled, high-end wine room. Plus, you can enjoy free samples from their tasting bar. There's only one place to go for all your needs for spirits and cigars: Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits on North 27th Street in Lincoln.
Focus. Without the right focus, you don't know what you could be missing. And when you're driving, keeping things in focus could be the difference in preventing a tragedy. I'm Trooper Fitzgerald with the Nebraska State Patrol. When behind the wheel, driving deserves your full attention. Help keep Nebraska roads safe. Avoid distractions and keep your focus on driving. This message is presented by the Nebraska State Patrol and the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello and welcome back into the Daily Nebraskan show right here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. We're now going to get into some NBA talk. Talked a lot of Husker baseball. First segment, Nebraska won the Big Ten tournament, defeating Penn State this morning 2-1. But let's now get into some NBA talk. We'll first get into the game that's tonight. We got Mavericks Timberwolves. Mavericks up 2-0 in that series, and it's now heading to Dallas. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, who would have thought that Dallas not only would it beat the Thunder, but also would be up 2-0 on the Timberwolves heading back to Dallas? I mean, did you see that?
I did not. No, it's very surprising outcome coming out of the Western Conference Finals. 2 very close games to game 1, a 3-point Mavericks win. Game 2, a 1-point win. Luka hit a game-winning shot with 3 seconds left over Rudy Gobert. Just very, very unfortunate games for Minnesota. Now you're going to have to win 2 on the road just to have a chance at winning the series. So it's going to be very, very interesting going forward.
Kyrie Irving has just really been the difference in this game. Obviously, Luka has been awesome. He's doing what he does, every single playoff series. But Kyrie Irving, if Kyrie Irving outperforms Anthony Edwards, the Timberwolves really don't have a chance. And that's really what's been happening so far. Anthony Edwards looked gassed in that first game trying to guard Kyrie Irving. I think we forget how great of a basketball player Kyrie Irving is. He's one of the most talented players in the league. Even right now, he's one of the most talented players in the league. Now, obviously, there's been some off-the-court issues that, have not aided him, being able to actually play. But I mean, there's no no one has ever denied Kyrie Irving's talent. He is just an exceptional talent. And when he's on the floor and he's healthy, he is one of the best point guards in the league. I mean, he honestly rivals Steph Curry with talent. Now, do I think he can be the best player on a championship team? Probably not. He needs someone like Luka alongside him. But we all know Kyrie Irving's a very capable number 2 player on a championship contending team. I think my problem with this Mavericks team was that I didn't think a team where PJ Washington, being their 3rd highest scorer, would be able to make a deep run in the playoffs. Like, I didn't think that could happen. But PJ Washington's been outstanding, and Kyrie Irving and Luka has honestly been the best duo of the playoff in this playoff so far this year. I mean, would you say so? I think they've been the best duo so far.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that statement at all right there. I mean, Kyrie is just really showing everyone that like he's still got it. Like yes, he's still pretty much always been a star in this league, but a lot of people, like you said, really just have their doubts with him, but he's really shown up this playoffs. And Luka, is that number 1 guy. He is, in my opinion, we can probably touch on this later, I think is the future face of the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Not the guy in Minnesota right now, but I think, just you mentioned PJ Washington, Derek Lively's another guy off the bench, rookie playing amazing basketball right now, getting every rebound imaginable. I did not expect this Dallas team to beat OKC in the second round. I knew they were going to make it close, but I really just I was looking past Luka and Kyrie and thinking, there isn't really that much there, but they've really proved me wrong so far in this series. Daniel Gafford had his moments. Derek Jones has had his moments the past 2 series. So they're just a fun team to watch right now.
I mean, Luka, when Luka, was tearing it up a couple years ago, I always thought he was going to be the next face of the week. But then a guy named Nikola Jokic came and has won 3 of the last 4 MVPs, and he's now, being talked as the best player in the league. And then Anthony Edwards this year got a lot of hype. People comparing him to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, whatever. And, a lot of those, overblown. This is the first time we really got to see Anthony Edwards on the big stage, and he performed fairly well up until this Mavericks series. He hasn't played terrible, but, hasn't played up to his standards so far that he's been playing at during these playoffs. But, it is really interesting to see how far this Mavericks team can go. Because, if they do beat the Timberwolves and they get to the finals where they're going to face the Celtics, we then get Kyrie would then be going against his old team in Boston. And I don't think anyone saw that coming this year. We all knew the potential of a Luka Kyrie duo and how far that could go, but we didn't know about the supporting cast. But then they brought in PJ Washington, brought in Daniel Gafford. Those 2 down low have been awesome so far this year. And then Rudy Gobert, he's been getting exposed, and this may be me just not being happy that Bam Adebayo never gets Defensive Player of the Year. But this is the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, getting absolutely exposed so far in this series. Hasn't played great. He didn't honestly even play that great last series either against Denver. Jokic was going right at Rudy Gobert, the Defensive Player of the Year, and Jokic is putting up great numbers. He's always going to put up great numbers, but you would expect a little bit more out of the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. But I want to ask you, what does Minnesota need to do to turn around this series? Because we saw Denver come back from being down 0-2 against the Timberwolves when they were heading to Minnesota. Now, granted, Denver did lose that series in 7 games, but what can Minnesota do to get back in this series?
Yeah, I just think their star players need to step up a little bit. Through 2 games, their leading scorers in game 1, their leading scorer was Jaden McDaniels, and in game 2, their leading scorer was Naz Reid. Both great players, don't get me wrong, but when you have guys like Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, you need those guys to show up. Anthony Edwards shot 5 of 17 this past game. Game 1, shot 6 of 16. Not having his most effective outings at all going out here, and he's just going to have to step it up offensively, especially when on defense he's having trouble keeping up with guys like Kyrie Irving. So, yeah, I think really just the big 3 of Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and Rudy Gobert all need to just really step up their game up if they're going to want any chance to come back in this series.
Do you feel Minnesota still has a chance in this series? I'll give my opinion. I want yours first.
I think they'll win they'll steal a road game. I don't know if they'll steal both, like the games 3 and 4. I think, I could see them forcing it to 6 games, but I think by that time you'll be back in Dallas for that matchup. And I think it'd be kind of similar to the OKC series where the Mavericks get the win in 6.
Yeah, I mean, who would have saw this coming? I mean, Minnesota, everyone was picking. I mean, after Minnesota went up 2-0 against Denver, everyone was saying they were going to make the finals. I mean, everyone was saying that. Then Denver made it 7 games. I mean, that honestly could have maybe hurt their chances, tired them out a little bit more having to play that many games. But, I mean, they look outmatched so far by this Mavericks team, and I don't think anyone saw that coming. And it's good. I mean, and it's crazy because, I mean, Dallas brought Kyrie Irving in because they knew they had to compete with Luka, because they knew when Luka's contract comes to an end, is he going to resign? I mean, that was going to be a big problem. Can you get Luka to stay in Dallas? And that was kind of the whole idea with getting Kyrie in, is to compete, get a star player next to him, because they had Jalen Brunson, but Jalen Brunson on the Mavericks wasn't what he is on the Knicks right now. I mean, those are two completely different players. So it's gonna be fascinating that even if Dallas gets to the finals and loses, they're probably going to be able to keep Luka there just because of they're finally having success in the playoff series. I mean, I know they got to a Western Conference Finals a couple years ago, but I mean, they have been flaming out in the playoffs these last few years. But this year, it looks like they're going all in, and they actually have a chance to win the finals. Because let's now go to the Eastern Conference side of it. Because Boston, they're up 3-0 on this Pacers team. But in my opinion, Boston, I don't think they're that great of a team. They're a good team. Don't get me wrong. But this is not a team that they are not dominating like the series scores make it look like. I mean, they dominated the Heat. They're dominating this Pacers series. I mean, they've kind of just dominated all the way through this playoffs. But in my opinion, they haven't looked dominant. They don't look like a team that is about to make the NBA Finals. I mean, they don't look like that kind of a team. But here we are. They're up 3-0 on a Pacers team that coming in. I mean, I saw this as a pretty solid Pacers team. Granted, they got here because of a lot of injuries, but this is still a pretty solid Pacers squad. I don't think anyone saw them maybe getting all of the first 3 games of this series. And I think it goes back to that game 1. The Pacers had to get that game 1. Throwing away that game 1, I think everyone kind of saw the writing on the wall after the Pacers lost game 1. But I want to get your thoughts on the Celtics run so far.
Yeah, they're a hard team to judge, really. I mean, because you're right, they have dominated the 76ers round 1. Oh, wait. The Heat. My bad. Sorry. The Heat round 1. Yep. Everyone in the East has just been so injured. I get them all mixed up because, the Heat without Jimmy Butler, they beat the Cavs in round 2 where Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, they were all banged up. And now Tyrese Halliburton out for the Pacers. And still, without Tyrese last night, they still had to make a double-digit comeback to beat Indiana. So very, very weird team. They're a team that, I mean, they have their injuries too. Kristaps Porzingis is out for them, but he'll likely be back, I think, come finals time. But yeah, it's a team that dominated the Eastern Conference all year. They're dominating this playoffs, but it's really just showing how weak that conference is compared to the Western Conference, because I think I really could put them against the Nuggets, or not the Nuggets. Geez, I'm all over the place. But the Timberwolves and the Mavericks, and I think that's going to be a whole different outcome to that series. Some more competitive games, and I'm honestly favoring the West in those matchups.
I mean, yeah, the West. I mean, I think all these teams in the West have looked better than the Celtics. I mean, this just shows how bad the East has been this year, and I don't feel like the East is that bad. I just feel like they're banged up. There's just a lot of injuries in the East. I just feel like like a Heat team that's fully healthy, 76ers team that's fully healthy, Knicks team that's fully healthy, Pacers team that's fully healthy, Bucks team that's fully healthy. I mean, you forget about the Bucks. I mean, these are all teams that can make runs and that can make a run in the playoffs, but they were all just banged up. Bucks had Dame and Giannis out, and the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton was out. Donovan Mitchell was hurt in the second half in the second part of that series. So it's just like when the Celtics finally do face a team that is fully loaded, fully healthy, like this Mavericks team or the Timberwolves are, how are they going to fare? I mean, let's just say hypothetically, it's Celtics, Mavericks, Celtics, Timberwolves, whatever, either one of those teams. How many games do you feel like that series would go, and who would you take?
Yeah, I think it'll be a game. It'll be a close series, I would think, around 6, maybe 7 games. But at the end of the day, I think really at this point, Mavericks and Minnesota, whoever gets out of that series, they worked hard. They've been through it all. They went through this gauntlet of a Western Conference to get there. And, I think they're just going to be hungry. They're going to want that. Not saying the Celtics, totally nothing against the Celtics, dominating their path through it, but they really just haven't been tested. I mean, they have been tested, but then they're being tested by teams that are led by Pascal Siakam and Andrew Nembhard because there's no Tyrese Halliburton. So that's totally different than, say, Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic or Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. So, yeah, I would think it will be the Celtics would definitely get their games, but I think a Western Conference team, I prefer them in those matchups.
So we're gonna throw this to break, but we're continuing this conversation when we come back, and definitely gonna want to preview tonight's game a little bit deeper, and then continue the conversation with the Celtics. Because again, I agree. I don't think the Celtics are that great, but they're up 3 on the Pacers. They're gonna be playing tomorrow, so we'll get into more NBA talk right here on the Daily Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Be a memory for your grandchildren. Among Nebraska adults age 65 or older, 47% report current alcohol use. Drinking too much can cause harm to children, family members, and loved ones. By drinking less, you will still be around for your grandchildren. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
In every office, there's 2 types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job,
not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? Or a 14-year-old girl who signs up to every after-school activity, not to make friends, but just to get something to eat? Or a retiree who fell ill and had to choose
between getting medicine or groceries.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Hey there, fellas. It's your girl Jordan with Starter Heyman Jewelry, here to drop some knowledge bombs on how to wow your woman. Size matters, but not the way you're thinking, guys. Make sure you know her ring size before you even think about popping the question. If you aren't a surprise kind of guy, ask her. I bet she knows her size. If you are a surprise kind of guy, bring in a piece and we can get close to the right size. We will make it perfect for her when the time is right. Until next time, this is Jordan at Starter Heyman Jewelry. Happy shopping, guys.
At Union Bank, people don't have your money. Your money has people. First home people, investment people, people who answer the phone and your chats, dream car people, dream retirement people, driving your dream car in your dream retirement people, small business people, credit card people, and all the other people you need. At Union Bank, our people help you do more than you dreamed possible. So stop in and say hello. We can't wait to see you. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
The Mill Coffee and Tea, formerly with only 4 Lincoln locations. Guess what?
What?
There's 5 Lincoln locations now. Oh my gosh. That's 25% more Lincoln locations than there used to be. Can you even imagine a world where there's only 4 Lincoln Mill locations? Feels like ages ago. We were all so young then. The Mill on 11th, located right alongside 93.7 The Ticket Studios, 1040 O Street.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003.
At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action. Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
NEBCO is hiring CDL drivers for ready mixed concrete, Husker concrete, and Beatrice concrete. NEBCO offers great pay, medical and retirement benefits, paid time off, and they pay for CDL training. Apply today and start your new career with a $2,500 hiring bonus. From NEBCO's beginning in 1908, it's the employees that have formed the company's solid foundation. Start your career today. Visit nebcoinc.com. That's NEBCOINC.com.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
One last segment here on the Daily Nebraskan show right here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. And there's kind of some breaking news. Luka Doncic is questionable for Game 3, right knee soreness. Jason Kidd just announced 20 minutes ago. He will go through pregame to see if he can play, but he is questionable with a right knee soreness. So Luka might not be playing tonight against the Timberwolves. Anthony, I want to first get your thoughts. I mean, how does that affect the outcome of tonight's game? I mean, do you feel like the Mavericks can still potentially go up 3-0 even without Luka playing tonight?
I think they can, but it would definitely be a major challenge going forward. If Luka is not able to play in this Game 3, you're going to really have to rely on Kyrie Irving to even, just carry even more of a load offensively, while also needing guys like Derek Jones and, Derek Lively, PJ Washington to step up and just make up for some of the numbers that you wouldn't be getting with Luka Doncic, as obviously he does it all. He gets assists, rebounds, points. So that's just a whole lot to make up for. And yeah, if Luka isn't able to go tonight, I definitely like Minnesota in this one.
I mean, yeah, this is again another injury in the playoffs that could potentially help Minnesota potentially get back into this series, because if Luka doesn't play, I mean, he doesn't play tonight, and potentially Game 4. I mean, we don't know how serious it is. He is just wishing as questionable, so it's not that serious where he's going to be out for weeks, but it's going to be interesting to see if Minnesota can, finally get some momentum back in the series and try to make a comeback. But I want to go back to the Celtics, because while they haven't looked great, they have still been they've still dominated so far through the entire Eastern Conference playoffs. And I do feel like this team would still have a chance against Dallas and Minnesota, because I don't feel like these are not like unbeatable teams where it's like the Celtics would be completely outmatched. Like the Celtics have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They would get probably Porzingis back in the finals. Drew Holiday's been playing outstanding so far in these playoffs. So I mean, I do feel like that series would probably go 6 or 7 games. I mean, I don't want to sit up here and say like, oh, Western Conference team would gentlemen sweep them or sweep. Like, I'm not going to say that, because I mean, we've seen flaws in this Timberwolves team. Right now, they're getting exposed by the Mavericks, and we all know the Mavericks are probably not as star-studded as the Celtics are. I mean, maybe the Luka and Kyrie is probably a better duo than Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but the Celtics, their depth is definitely a lot better than that Dallas Mavericks team depth. So it would be, I mean, on paper, the Celtics should be a better team than both of those teams. But as we've been talking about, they haven't looked like that so far. But do you feel like a big part of that has been Porzingis not playing in this playoffs? How much do you feel like Porzingis being injured has affected this Celtics team?
Yeah, that definitely affects them a lot. I mean, the comparisons between Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford, who is starting in place of him right now, they're just two completely different players and completely different points in their career. That when Kristaps Porzingis comes back, returns to the lineup, Celtics are a really dangerous team. They already are a dangerous team now, but then they really just have this starting five of just 5 all-star caliber players. So it's just very interesting when he comes back. And yeah, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, even though they're playing these games close with the Pacers, they're still showing up in every one of those games. 2 games, Tatum has had 36 points. In the game that he didn't have that many points, Jaylen Brown had 40. So they're still showing up. They're still rising to the occasion, at least offensively. So yeah, this is just it's a team that's weird to judge right now. We won't truly know that until they make the finals and see how they perform against a hopefully healthy Western Conference team. But they certainly have the tools to win a championship.
Yeah, and I saw a poll. Bleacher Report did a poll where it says, "Is this the easiest run to the finals for the Celtics ever?" Like the actual Bleacher Report Twitter ran that poll, and I want to go back. I'm pretty sure it was 78% of people said that this is the easiest run to the finals ever.
That's the one thing I don't like about that. Like they were saying the same thing with Denver last year. Like, oh, they had an easy run to the final. Like at the end of the day, they're just playing the games that are put in front of them, and they're just winning that. They can't control the injuries. They can't control the teams they're playing. While, yes, it might be a little annoying that every team that Boston plays, their star player just goes down by game 3. But they're just doing what, maybe investigate it. Maybe that's why it's the easy path. But, it's just, hey, at the end of the day, they're just winning the games they're put in front of them. If they win a championship out of it, so what? You can't knock them for that.
Yeah, I mean, I never really got all like the people saying that was the easy run for the Nuggets. I mean, I don't feel like any run out of the Western Conference, especially in recent history, is ever easy. Like they still had to play, Lakers, and I'm trying to even remember who they played. What, Timberwolves? Did they play Timberwolves or was it?
I think Timberwolves. Or was that sick?
See, I'm honestly blanking on it, but I mean, I don't feel like any run out of the Western Conference in recent history has ever been easy. Definitely was easier, but I don't think playing that Lakers team in the Western Conference Finals, that was a good Lakers team. I don't care what anyone says. That was LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I mean, anytime you're playing those two, that's not easy ever. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, that's not an easy series. So I don't know, but for this Celtics team, I feel like it's only one of the easiest in recent history because of just the injuries. Yeah. I'm never one to complain, oh man, all the teams they played have just not been good. I never really say that. It's more of I don't like it when there's so many injuries that, it kind of just allows teams to kind of go through an easier path. I mean, we can even talk about the Pacers. The Pacers probably shouldn't even be in the Eastern Conference Finals right now. I mean, let's be for real. They probably would have lost to the Bucks if they would have been healthy. And they probably would have lost to the Knicks if the Knicks were fully healthy. Not even fully healthy, just healthier at all. The Knicks maybe are in the Eastern Conference Finals and the Pacers aren't. So, I mean, we could have that conversation with the Pacers as well. So I understand it for the Celtics just because of all the injuries. It has been easier. I mean, you played the Heat with no Jimmy Butler. Cavaliers, like you said, Jared Allen was hurt. Donovan Mitchell was hurt for the latter part of that series. And now you're playing a Pacers team that doesn't have Tyrese Halliburton right now. So, yes, it has been a very easy run to the finals for the Celtics, but they're still having to win all these games, and they've been dominating these series. I mean, score-wise, they've been dominating the series. They haven't looked like they've been dominating them. They've had to been making these great comebacks. So, it's really hard to put my finger on it. But one last question I want to do for the Celtics team is that if the Celtics don't win the championship this year, they don't win in the finals, what does that mean for the Celtics team? Do they have to break up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, or do you think they just run it back once again next year? I mean, what would happen if the Celtics do not win the NBA Finals this year?
I think they'll run it back. I don't think you put so much money into just this whole team in general. I mean, just even Drew Holiday, they gave a massive contract to recently. There's just so much money put into this team that has gone – they've been so close all of these times, made the finals a few years back. I think made the Eastern Conference Finals 6 of the last 8 years or something like that. And there's just so much money invested into guys like Tatum and Brown that it's it would hurt more to move one of those guys off, blow the team up, than to just, run it back next year. When you're going to have this regular season success, you're going to be a high seed come playoff time. They're just going to have – this is certainly their best chance. I think they're in the Tatum era of winning a championship this year. So it would definitely hurt not getting it done this year. But at the end of the day, I think you got to keep the core together.
I agree. If they would have lost, like the Heat first round or Cavs second round, I think this would be a lot different discussion. But if you get to the finals, I don't think you just blow it up. Like, getting to the finals is always a big deal. I get this is Boston and they're tied for the most championships of all time in the NBA. Granted, they haven't done much since 1990s. They did win one championship in 2008, but they haven't done much in the last 30 years. So, I mean, they're seen as this great team, but they really haven't had the recent success of a great team. But, I mean, this is still a team that's like, this is championship or bust. Now, bust is not blow it up. Bust is just like, that'd be disappointing, where you might have to move off Joe Mazzulla. I think you might have to have conversations about moving off from Joe Mazzulla if they don't win this finals. Because,
I can see that.
With this team and how easy of a run they have had, and now you're going to be playing, the Mavericks or the Timberwolves, like teams that look beatable, in my opinion. If you're the Celtics, like, you should be going into those series. Like, these are teams that we should beat. On paper, we are a better team, especially if they get Porzingis back. Now, if they don't get Porzingis back for the finals, I think that's a different discussion. But with Porzingis, the Celtics team, they should be a better team than the Timberwolves or the Mavericks. So if they don't win the finals, I think you definitely have to have a conversation about Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah, I agree. Especially just the really state of the NBA as a whole. If teams are moving off of coaches left and right, the Cavs just fired their head coach. I mean, earlier in the year, the Bucks had one of the best records in the league, and they moved off their first-year head coach. So that's just the way that it is. And Mazzulla has gotten a lot of, slander and stuff like that with some of his decisions while coaching for Boston. He hasn't been, this perfect coach, even though Boston has always been a 1 seed in the East with him at the helm. So, yeah, I think I could definitely see, especially if they somehow lose this series, they won't, they're up 3-0. But if they lose in the finals and, if they want to change anything about the team, it would be moving on from Joe Mazzulla.
I mean, yeah, because this team has been having success not because of Mazzulla, it's because of the talent that they have. Like, this is just one of the most talented teams in the NBA, if not the most talented team in the NBA. So, if you're Brad Stevens, you can't just keep accepting this team not winning a championship. Like, you only get so many shots at it. I mean, you look back in history. I mean, teams, you only get so many opportunities before stuff goes right. I mean, this roster is only going to be getting older. Not talking about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. We're talking about Drew Holiday, Al Horford, Porzingis even. I mean, he has an injury history. The older he gets, the more injuries he's going to have. So, like, the roster is only going to be getting older. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't want to say now or never, but like you only get so many opportunities to be a championship contending team before you have roster turnover and you have to build it back up. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see if the Celtics do not win the NBA Finals when they do beat the Pacers. They are up 3-0. Again, they still have to do it, but I mean, if they lose to the Pacers being up 3-0 with no Tyrese Halliburton right now, that would be ugly, and that's a whole nother conversation. But Pacers likely going to be losing the Celtics. Probably going to get Celtics Mavericks, Celtics Timberwolves. It's looking like Celtics Mavericks, but like I said earlier, Luka Doncic now questionable for tonight's game. So we'll see if Timberwolves can win tonight's game. Maybe they can kind of come back in this series. But with that, that's all we got for the Daily Nebraskan show. Thank you for tuning in to 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. We'll be right back here next week, same time, 5 to 6, and we'll discuss probably more NBA. Husker baseball will be starting the NCAA tournament by the time we get to next Sunday at 5. So we'll have a lot to discuss next week. Anthony, thank you for joining me on the stream.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. You just listened to the Daily Nebraskan show right here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Until next time, see ya.
Nutrition Authority presents Fusion 30, an ultra premium protein powder ideal for any